I just saw your message and I can only be on for an hour, but I was really wanting to catch you there.
Okay, great. We're starting recording. That's wonderful. Welcome, Kathleen. Welcome, Marie. Welcome, everybody. We're here with Emma, known as Dunas Park on the Dowsing chat. She's also a very prolific field messenger for CARE and Chewy. I wanted to have her on because she's quite the eminent facilitator of healing. And she also uses a type of dowsing rod, I'll call it. If I'm wrong, it's called a biotensor. So I wanted to have her on to talk about her work. So Emma, first question for you is give us a little bio on yourself. Where'd you come from? Who are you? How'd you get into the healing system you're in?
Okay, first of all, thank you for having me. It's my pleasure. And I do come from Norway. I was born and raised in the north of Norway, above the polar circle. So I grew up with northern lights and midnight sun and all that. And then I wandered out in the world, and I lived in the former Yugoslavia. I lived in Canada, in Ottawa. And then I started working for American companies. I ended up in the computer business, and I worked for a decade for IBM in banking and finance. So I've done a lot, and I love traveling, and very curious person. But after being in business for a long, long time, I found that I didn't have time to do what I wanted. So instead of helping the banks get richer, I thought I'll take care of myself a little bit. So I was in India on a yoga retreat, and I met the new man from Norway. And so we went there as friends, and we came back as a couple. And that was 18 years ago. So the event in India was that 1 million people were supposed to meditate together. And that was an experience that we wanted to have, because we heard about the Marishi effect. It's like what happens when people come together and do that. But it was not a very good event because there was too many needy people and the setting was not right, and so on. Well, anyway, he suggested that we travel. And so a week after, I just quit my job, sold my house, and we started traveling together. And the colder the weather, the further south we went, and we ended up in Fuerteventura, which is one of the Canary Islands, belongs to Spain, but it's on the coast of Africa. And the climate is perfect. It's subtropical, and 360 days of sun and 5 days in average of rain. So we get loads of vitamin D from the sun, and I get to grow the garden that I always wanted. So that's the backstory.
That's
Is that
fantastic.
okay?
It's perfect. You're always okay. It's beautiful. Anybody else have a question for Emma?
Well, I have another
Please.
another thing, because I have not worked in a proper job for 17 years now. I have not had like a traditional income either. So I had to learn to live without money. And that is quite interesting. I think that is one of the things that have taught me the most ever in life. How to just be me, be happy with what I have, no materialistic things. Because when we traveled here, we only had hand luggage, like 10-kilo hand luggage. So we didn't bring anything from homes. Like when you move, normally you take all your belongings with you. We didn't do that. We just left. And that is the best thing, to start over again. Start your new life with a clean slate, no history, no nothing. So that is one of the amazing things, because there's no distraction. It's just you and a new place and new possibilities. And that like, my mother doesn't like it. She's like, when are you going to start working? And when are you going to earn money? And you don't have a car. You're like, Mom, I've never been happier. I've never been happier. It's like, yeah, but you don't have anything. It's like, I do. I have a house. I have a garden. I have friends. I have sunshine every day. It couldn't be better. Couldn't be better. So it was a chance to take, but it paid off. It's like, yes, I'm here exactly where I want. And the thing is, when you don't work, you have the whole day to yourself. You can choose every day what I want to do. And I couldn't stop reading because I was so hungry for knowledge. Because when you work, you only have limited hours. You end up in front of the TV because you're exhausted. We don't have a TV, but we have books, and we listened to interviews, and we did research, and we ended up forming a nonprofit organization, register and run nonprofit organization, and we connected with a group of people to help sick people who had been given up by hospitals and things like that. So my husband had terminal liver cancer about 27 years ago, and they gave him 3 months to live, and he's still here. But then he refused the treatment that they had given his mother. His mother died from the same thing. But he met a Chinese doctor that was in an exchange program between Eastern and Western medicine. And this Chinese doctor was going to diagnose him. And yeah, he found the liver cancer and said, oh, you have liver cancer, just eat raw vegetables and you'll be fine. And he was like, what? And he did that. He changed his diet. And 3 months later, he was okay. 6 months later, he went back, did a new biopsy. There was no cancer. So we thought, if it's that easy, why don't we do something about it? So we have now we're part of a group who helps sick people with only natural things. And of course, very early we were on the internet and downloading all those videos and things that have been censored now. So we have a lot of information. And I also wrote a book about the Budwig diet, which is Johanna Budwig, a German doctor who found the cure for cancer in 1952 or something like that. So yeah, so we've done a lot of things health-wise, and then I started being interested in the mental things, like the esoteric things and emotional things. And it started with I had a lady who had cancer in remission. She was getting better and better. And she told me, it's like, I know what to do. I have all the knowledge, but it's like I have lead in my legs. I cannot do it. I don't have the energy to do it. I need to be pushed. So, and then I had read all the books of Dr. David R. Hawkins, who talked about emotions and how negative emotions hold you back and makes you heavy and take away your energy and things like that. So I started experimenting with her. She became a good friend, and she started opening up and talking about childhood. And she had a horrible childhood. And then in the beginning, it was just talk therapy. And I said, okay, there has to be a better way to get rid of these emotions. And I read more, and I said, emotions are energy in motion. Okay, how do you attract the energy? How do you remove it? So we ended up using prayer in the beginning, just praying for people, and it really helped. But a lot of people need proof that something is going on. They need to know the background. It's like, okay, you say prayer, but some people don't trust that. So then we found out that the biotensors, like a pendulum, where you can ask, muscle testing. So muscle testing with the arm was what I used in the beginning. But then if you have like 50 questions, your arm gets very tired. And then we found a biotensor, which looks like this. And this is made by Italian shaman that lives here. And he made it specific to do allergy testing for people. And he did teach me how to use it. And it's like, wow, that's an amazing tool. It's super easy to use. It has a wooden handle, and it has a wooden ring. It's very simple. And for me, it's like a stone or anything. And as it is a muscle test, you just hold it in your hand and you connect and you ask questions or you make statements. So for me, that was like, okay, I get it. And I started using it, and I started collecting lists of negative emotions, and I made a chart of 44 different negative emotions and calibrated them according to a scale. We call it the scale of conscious evolution. It's like, how negative is it or how positive is it? And we sort of categorized each emotion. So the lower frequency of the emotion, the more it holds you back from being the best person that you can be. So with all this research back and forth, it ended up being emotional release by Emma, because I feel that I sort of did the background information on the method, and I put together how it is presented today.
Yes, and you have a very lovely, yeah, no, it's great. You have a very lovely document that describes how the work goes when someone works with you, has a session with you. That's very helpful. We will post that as well in the comments or something below the chat. We post it. Yeah, very good.
Yeah.
Anyone here?
Go
ahead.
Sorry, I have a quick question. I know you can treat like medical problems that, like say a doctor's told you you've got it, you can physically see it, but how does it work, all of these treatments for say mental health problems? Because mental health problems can also leave you with a lot of chronic pain and other symptoms like flu, and so that does it work as well for mental health?
Yes, in our group we have an osteopath, and when she has a client with a lot of stress, internal stress, she said, okay, there's too much tension in your body. I cannot get to where I need to go. So she sends them to me, and I do an emotional release, and I find out where they have the stress, what kind of negative trapped emotions they have, and I clear them and transition them into some better emotions. And then when she comes back, he said, okay, now you're relaxed. I can do the manipulation or the massage or the release that they need. So I know for sure that mental negative trapped emotion is physical in the body, because you can actually feel it. And actually you can see a very stressed person is very stiff, like a stiff branch instead of a soft branch. So,
Wow.
and on the chart, I actually also connect, for instance, body is like the heart and the spleen and the liver and the colon. And I connect it also to elements like fire, wood, iron, and so on. And that's relevant because, for instance, if you have a negative trapped emotion of feeling unwanted, it has to do with a heart, and it has to do with fire. And it shows up like some people with that negative trapped emotion needs to eat fiery food to feel they're alive, or they cannot tolerate fiery food. So the emotion is also connected to how you behave, to your behavior. So you can go really, really deep into find the emotion and find out when the emotion was stuck in you. And just a few weeks ago, I had a lady from New Zealand who had lots of negative trapped emotion early in life, and it was actually in her mother's womb. And I was very curious. I didn't tell her that when I sent her the chart, but I knew that we had a follow-up on the phone, and I asked her, I said, so what happened when your mother was pregnant with you? Do you know anything about that? And she said, oh, yes. The sibling that was born before me was handicapped. And my parents were really worried that I was going to be handicapped as well. So they had a lot of trauma and a lot of discussions when she was still in her mother's womb. And those traumas were still there in her body. She was in her 70s. when I did the emotional release. And then she understood, okay, these are the things that I've been struggling with all my life. And she also had a trauma when she was about 6, 7 years old. And I asked her, was your parents worried when you started school about anything? Well, she said, no, they were not worried that I was going to go to school. They were worried that I would go away because I was taking care of my disabled sibling. And now when I went to school, they don't. So that was a worry that she had been carrying all her life. So, I mean, you can find a situation exactly when the trauma happened, and it's still there, stuck in your body. So,
Right, and you can actually use that biotensor to answer those questions and find out what happened a lot of us do that kind of work. It's lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I feel like we have a small enough group here. If people want to just ask a question, raise your hand, or John or Anna, feel free. If someone has a question for.
I think Kathleen wants to talk as well. Yes, go on, John. And then we'll speak to Kathleen.
No, Kathleen. Do you mind, Kathleen? Sorry.
Oh, I just wanted to know the name of your book, Emma, and can we get that somewhere?
Oh, yes, sorry, I was going to ask that.
About the Budwig protocol. I can send it to you, but it was stopped by a medical company because they didn't want the information out. So,
well, give us your email then so we can contact you to maybe buy that book.
I'll send it to Liz.
Okay.
Because it was given out for free by a website called Cancer Tutor. Cancer Tutor was one of the biggest alternative websites for
Okay,
cancer.
yeah, I can be a source or a conduit, and I'll provide whatever contact information in the title, whatever you need to put out, Emma, will get the information. That's a great question, Kathleen and Anna. Thank you.
Yeah,
I was going to ask the
I
same.
have a lot of information that we give up for free because it's trying to stay under the radar of whoever.
Yes, because we're about wellness here. That's it.
Yeah.
Yes, but they don't like that, so of course they're going to take it away.
Yeah, no, yeah.
John,
Yeah,
did you have a
John-
question? Go ahead, sorry. John, did you have a question?
Yeah, thanks. And Emma, thank you so much for that. Absolutely fascinating, and in so many different ways. You know, I think a lot of what you've covered is a lot of what I know Liz and Anna and myself have been very interested in and pursued. But there's certain elements of what you've done that is just incredible, like living without no money. I mean, that is just a tremendous thing. And I wonder if you could talk a bit more about that later. But my first question really is surrounding groundwater, because when I found out years ago that groundwater was pretty much abundant everywhere you went, it sort of didn't surprise me that we've been sort of moved away from, or even prevented from having wells and our own water. But since then, I've learned that it's possible that the local environment and any toxins or pollutants in the local environment will actually contaminate the the more reachable groundwater. Have you come across that, and how do you analyze the quality of the water that you're receiving, for example?
Well, the water here on the island, the island had a lot of groundwater, but then the Spanish government started producing grains. So there was like the grain chamber of mainland Spain, because the climate was perfect here. So they started pumping up the groundwater, and they pumped up too much so that the salt water from the ocean came in and just ruined the whole thing. So now the water we have is desalinated water. Yeah, they cannot use the groundwater anymore because it's completely ruined. But hopefully that will build up and get better and better. Because when you start a garden, you have to water a lot for months and months before you start putting anything in the ground, because it will just die. And because the grains have to, all the seeds have to be sort of harmonized with the salt in the water, because it's desalinated water, but there's still salt in it. And if you bring in seeds from other places, they will not grow. So you have to find seeds. We talk to each other, the farmers. We always go to a farmer and say, can I please get some seed from you that has been climatized for this environment? And it's a very special situation here, but there's lots of hippies. It's a very alternative island, and we have a town that we call the hippie town, and they have markets and they share a lot of information, and you can go there and just talk and get seeds and get everything. Yeah, so water is
Fantastic. Thank
important.
you.
Yeah.
Thanks for that. That really helps to understand the bigger picture. Thank you.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
going back to the original point, how do you manage to live without money? Everyone wants to know that.
Well, the number one is to trust that money will come when you need it. And it's very hard to explain because it's just faith in God. Yeah.
Yep.
So
Yep.
as long as you have like a safe haven where you feel safe and you can thrive,
Yep.
and you can grow anything in your garden, you have your security, and then money just peeped in like from a lot of places. One of the worst years, I had like €1 left, and the thing that I bought was like a big chocolate, and I had a little piece every day.
That's
And
priorities there.
huh?
I said that's priorities right there.
And my mother called, and she said, "Oh, your uncle won the lottery." And I might have mentioned that you needed some money. And the next day he just called me and said, "How much do you need?"
Wow.
And I mean, out of the blue. And then some neighbor needs some help and they give you something, and then you get to help there, like volunteer. I worked voluntarily for a very long time, and it really paid off. And yeah, so it works, but you have to believe, you have to trust that it's doable, and it's never
Yep.
been a problem.
And I think that's just amazing, and it's where we're going to. It's where I think many of us are sort of aiming towards to get to where you've got to with that, because as you said, it's about faith, it's about love, it's about abundance, and I think the more that we do exactly what you're suggesting with removing traumas and moving our thoughts to a positive, and the closer we get to, and the more we move towards that situation. So thank you.
Yeah. We could.
Kim
you
talks
have to
about.
remember
Oh, sorry. And Kim talks about the same thing. Like you just get what you need when you need it, when you trust. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I have a quick question. As you've worked both on your own and with people, and I think you even said you went to a meditation with 1 million people.
Yeah.
Which was bad. So as you said that was a bad one because there are a lot of people who take up a lot of energy. But what is, like, when you have problems and you're trying to work on your own, can you do it all solely for yourself, or is it advisable to go and find groups, maybe smaller groups that you can work with? Because does it work just as well on your own, or are you better off in big groups or small groups or just with other people?
Well, some people like to do it by themselves, and some people like support. And I very often, like when I do emotional release, I try to stay in touch with people afterwards. And not long ago, I suggested for a group that we did the Hawaiian prayer called Ho'oponopono.
Yeah.
We'll do that for 21 days because science says that it takes 21 days to change a habit. So programming is like it's a neurological connection between the right and the left brain. So to get rid of that program, you have to build another program and then unlearn the other one. So when we did the Ho'oponopono for 21 days, we journaled and we talked and said, what's coming up for you? And people was like, yeah, a lot of people has like, I met my spiritual ego and it's really bad. And some people said it's like, oh, sadness. I was crying for a whole day. So what you need comes up when you do these prayers, because it's just 4 simple sentences. It's like, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, and I
I
love
love
you.
you. Yeah.
And you just repeat that over and over again, and you can
Is
feel
that
it.
the
Like,
Hawaiian one?
Yes.
Yeah, Ho'oponopono.
The Ho'oponopono. Yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah, yeah,
and it's
yeah.
an ancient Hawaiian prayer, really, really old, and it clears the energy. And you can do it intentionally between you and your parents. You can do that. You can clear the energy there. You can clear the energy towards yourself. And what came up for me was that, oh my God, how much I self-criticize. I criticize myself for everything, like by the way I look, what I say, what I do. And that was really helpful for me. Absolutely helpful. So I
Well,
would
I
definitely
think
recommend everybody to do that once in their life.
well, I was going to say we've been programmed to be very, especially in England here, we've been very, very critical of ourselves, because if you're not critical of yourselves, then you're deemed a bit arrogant or a little bit of a twat. So that's just the culture here. So it's
Yeah.
hard to break out of that programming sometimes.
Yeah, but it works. It works. I mean, so when I do an emotional release, I find all the negative trapped emotion in a person, and I use my husband as a proxy, and we release and transition all the negative trapped emotion, and we transition them into a higher positive energy, like love, joy, bliss, happiness, peace, whatever the person needs. So we never leave an empty space, because then anything can come in. So the transition is really, really important when you do this kind of work. And on the chart, we also find out, okay, what kind of gifts do you have? Do you have intuition? Do you have, yeah, all kinds of things, and the balance between the negative and the positive. And we also find out if this person has spiritual guides, and we all have. But that is a reminder that we never ask for help when we need it. So most people have 5 spiritual guides. And for girls, it's 3 feminine and two masculine. And for men, it's 3 masculine and 2 feminine. And for instance, if I do an emotional release for a lady and she has 3 or 4 masculine guides, that's a sign that she needs to be tougher in this life. Or if she has more feminine guides, it means that she needs to be more feminine in this life. So you get a lot of clues just by muscle testing or testing with a biotensor about the life of the person you have in front of you. And the fact that I asked them to send a picture where I can see their eyes, I can see a lot through their eyes. Because if you know anything about iridiology, like the iris knowledge, I can actually see in the picture if they have leaky gut issues, if they have digestive issues, if they have kidney problems. And then I can start asking questions. I cannot diagnose or do anything about that, but actually I can see what how the emotions have affected their body just by looking into their eyes. So that is also very powerful. And yeah, I don't do any, I try to stay on the emotional release path, but I could extend the therapy in lots of direction if I wanted to, because yeah, the eyes is the window of the soul. So
It really is.
yeah.
Well, thank you for that.
Yes. Do any of our guests, Marie, Madeline, Jane, you want to come off mute and ask any questions? Feel free. We're a small enough group. You can just pop off. You have to raise your hand. If not, I've got a question for Emma.
Yeah.
So Emma, here,
No,
Madeline,
no,
go
no.
ahead.
Madeline.
Yeah.
Yeah, Madeline,
I'm
go ahead.
sorry. I checked in a little bit late, and Emma, I'm not sure where you are. Where are you located?
I'm on the Canary Islands. That belongs to
Oh,
Spain. Yeah, in
okay.
Europe. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So Emma, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
when you're doing your emotional release work and say you're working on, say, depression or anger or whatever it is that emotion that you release related to a particular issue, or is it like that the anger's gone forever? You know what I mean? Because I know the work I do, it's really based around a particular presenting issue they want to talk about or get released. But how does your work go?
So I always use the biotensor and said, if I find depression, I ask, do I need to know more? And if it's a yes, I go deeper. I find out when the negative trapped emotion was stuck in the body, what happened, if it comes from the mother and the father, if it's, I always ask if it's inherited from mother or father, or is it their own emotion. And so I start digging and I find out. And when you find the source, it's so much easier to get rid of it. And I use my intuition to find out what kind of transition it needs to make with that. And if I have the person in front of me, I will use a magnet to release it, because it's so much faster. And it's when you transition it, it will probably not come back. Sometimes they still have the program, but then when the trigger comes, we teach them how to say, it's like, it's not mine, that's my mother's or something, and you just dismiss it, and then it doesn't come back. So we do follow up in 2-3 months after to see if anything comes back. And if a lot of stuff come back, we know it's a post-traumatic stress or something, and they need more professional help. And then we work with a hypnotist that takes them back to childhood, or to, so they can understand what it is. And if they're medicated, it's kind of complicated, but like hypnosis very often resolves the problem, and they can get off their medication and substitute that with niacin, vitamin B3, or something else. So we have lots and lots of tools in our toolbox.
Yes, very powerful. Goodness, thank you.
And another motivation that I do, because we need to raise consciousness on planet Earth. And we know that when you raise the consciousness of one person, they counterbalance quite a lot of, for instance, if I'm going to use the map of consciousness as an example, one person that has a consciousness of 500, which is pretty high, can counterbalance 750,000 people below with a lower consciousness. So one of my missions has been like, okay, get conscious spiritual people to do emotional release and raise their consciousness so they can counterbalance a lot of the negativity. So I've been targeting. I've learned marketing from a very powerful guy. I'll tell you about that later. But I have been looking for people to counterbalance negativity. So I've done emotional release for a lot of powerful people and really raised their consciousness to the max, so that we could have more positivity. And I say that's my contribution to the restoration project for humanity.
I love that. So
I've
Emma, would you like to?
doing that.
Oh, sorry, Emma. John, you go ahead. But Emma, at some point, would you? We would love to hear some more of your case stories about your people you've worked with, too. But John, did you have a quick question first? You said something.
No, I just wanted to say that I'd heard the notion that when you raise your vibration, you affect, and I heard 7 people around you, but you just said a massive number, and that gives me even more excitement, because what did you say, 70,000 or
750,000?
Oh my goodness! Wow, I've not heard that before, and I mean, I heard it was 7. Maybe I just didn't hear the rest of the
Missed
number.
the 50,000 off there, John. Yeah.
Yes. Oh well,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. No, the numbers are very high on the top there. It's very high, and it's been calibrated by it's in a book by David R. Hawkins called The Description of Power versus Force. Yeah. It's probably
David Hawkins, the medical doctor.
He's a psychiatrist.
Yeah, yeah, okay, I've heard of him, but I've not.
Yeah.
Brilliant, thank you.
I
Thank
have
you.
a question, Emma.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah.
Let's see. So I know you get patients or clients that some are on medications, pharmaceuticals, some are not. In your experience, have you noticed the approach that you have to take, the way that you use your biotensor to question when someone is on pharmaceutical medications already, let's say to supposedly or allegedly to balance their emotional state so that they're in a calm. Do you find it the same, easier to work with them, or is there some interference when you're trying to balance them if they're on pharmaceuticals?
Well, it's complicated because it's depends on the individual. You can't like, yeah. But in my experience, when you do take away negativity and trauma and balance the energy, they can come off the medication because they feel that I don't need it anymore. And if they, because it's scary to get off medication when you've been on medication for a long time. So there's lots of documentation on niacin, vitamin B3, how it balances your trauma. And if you can get them to do a transition themselves and they have to feel what is right for them, they can come off medication in a very safe way. And they can work with their doctor if they feel. But most people choose to do it by themselves. And also antidepressants, because the reason why they're on medication is an imbalance. And when you correct the imbalance, yeah.
Thank you.
Well, actually, I'm coming off my antidepressants. I haven't told the GP. I'm just titrating myself off them. And even I'm about halfway down on the dose, but even I have been able to tell the massive difference when I do anything to try and help myself. So it just felt like I was completely blocked before. And now I feel like I'm unblocking myself just from taking even half the dose away.
Yeah.
So I can say coming off medication makes a difference.
Absolutely, yeah. We had one incident with a lady who had been on antidepressants for 20 years, and we helped her come off. And she came and said she cried for the first time in 20 years and she loved it. But after a year, her husband said, I want my wife back. So he wanted her to get on the medication again because she changed her personality actually. Yeah. And he knew her with the antidepressants. So.
Which goes to show as we grow and change, sometimes relationships have to alter too, and sometimes our world and what we're attached to. Right. Growth can cause those kinds of changes, can it? Like, hey, I know sometimes working with people like a couple who want to get, may say, more fit or something like that. One partner will get more fit and the other one will be like, hey, and they're afraid they're going to lose them. So come back and don't exercise with me again, stuff like that. Yeah. Any other questions for Emma? Or Emma, would you like to share some stories about your people?
Yeah, when I do emotional release for married couples, I very often recommend them to do it, both of them, so that one doesn't sort of grow away from the person, so they can grow together, because personality can change, and when you get rid of trauma, you become suddenly a happy person, and your partner is not. So very often I offer them like I know a better deal, and have them both do it, and I call it like couples dynamics, and I can also do whole families, so that they learn to know the dynamics between each other. And it's a really good family therapy to do that, to understand what they're, and when the parents also understand that they have transferred trauma to their kids, it's very powerful. They started looking different at, instead of being irritated and angry, they become compassionate and loving. So, and I also did emotional release on a company where they couldn't really cooperate. So I did for each one of them, and the company dynamics just changed so much. So that also a very powerful way of synchronizing things. So there's many different ways you can do it, and you can expand your business different ways. But I have been concentrating on increasing consciousness with people. So maybe later I'll do different things, but and I also written started writing a manual, and I'll do a course so that more people can learn how to do it, because I have allies in New Zealand and in Norway, but I would like to see more people do that kind of work. I think it's needed.
That's really
Awesome.
great. Yeah. Anyone have any questions for Emma?
I was going to ask her what your most memorable person. Oh, hang on. Does Jane want to ask a question? She just popped on. I'll let her go.
Go ahead, Jane.
Hi. I don't know if you can hear me because my speaker's broken and I'm on my phone and I'm multitasking,
We
unfortunately.
can hear you. Yes, yes.
As well. I'm been doing a lot of work on myself personally this year. My contribution to the restoration is on me, because I've realized if it's going to be, it's up to me, as I'm the key. So I've been doing a lot of work, but still kind of all over the place. And what I want to ask is, my husband isn't on the same journey with me. So it's made it quite difficult and more challenging for me. However, I am noticing that as I do the work, I see that it's having a positive effect. There's been a lot of pain and hurt in the relationship coming from a place of misunderstanding, where a lot of anger came out of me because I wasn't being heard. And this comes back to my childhood as well. And maybe I've been carrying over the generational trauma as well. So yeah, I'm just trusting in the process, doing the work. It's hard. It's not easy. There's been good days, there's been bad days, but do I just keep going? Because I just feel deep down inside that somewhere along the line, it will change and it will all sort of mend together and come together. And even though things don't appear that way, because I've now going off in a different direction, I don't want to drink anymore, so I've stopped drinking now, and I'm just taking good care of myself now. And it has, do I just keep trusting in the process, really? And I don't know what my question is, other than, I just feel like it will all come right eventually. I feel it deep down inside, and do I trust this feeling, or do I just, I don't know, do I just move on eventually? It's so hard, But when you say that the more work you do and the more you start raising your vibration, I'm just noticing I'm attracting more and more of those people around me now versus the people, because I am the black sheep of the family. But I feel like I'm having a positive effect
Influence.
on people. So an influence, so I've done a little bit of, you mentioned the Ho'oponopono, I can't say it. So I've forgotten to do that, so I'm kind of squirrel brained. So I'm also trying to find something that works with me. I don't take medication. I'm microdosing at the moment, as well as taking supplements to try and help combat my ADHD. So yeah, I'm in this alone, and that's fine. Because I've got source behind me, so that's fine. Just any words of encouragement, or just how to get things in order is my biggest challenge. Is I've got so much information, but like, which ones do I pick and what do I focus on? And anyway, I'm just going with the flow right now.
So there's the two things I can recommend you is to look into niacin, vitamin B3.
I was taking that together with extra mushrooms as well, but I found it quite strong for me because I'm taking the flushing type. So
Yeah.
now I'm taking a lower dose because I'm not
Yeah.
quite sure of the dosage, but I do find the benefits after taking it, but it does make me kind of, I shiver and everything taking it. So I don't know if my dose is just too high or, yeah.
Yeah,
That's
a good thing
something
is
maybe.
there is a very good website called doctoryourself.com where
Okay.
there's dosage information. It's from Andrew Sol's website, where
Okay.
studies that have been done, because you have to find your dose and you have to take it regularly because you have to get used to the flushing. So it's a specific way, and you can take it with magnesium. Magnesium is so important, it's so underestimated, because magnesium makes all your muscles in your body relax, makes your nervous system relax, but you also have to take the right kind. And there's 4 or 5 different kinds of magnesium. And for instance, magnesium oxide cleans your gut, magnesium citrate and disglycinate. I only have the Spanish word.
It's
Different kinds of,
glycinate and thionate. Yeah, there's
yeah,
Yeah,
disglycinate
I've got,
makes your nervous system relax.
Yeah.
So you have to find the different kind of magnesium, then the right dose. And I always muscle test that for clients, and then suddenly they have a new life, because it's like for myself, when I worked in business, I used to work for IBM for a decade, and it was really stressful, meetings and coffee and running around. And I had a bladder problem. I was like, I had to go to the toilet like immediately when the signal came. And I did a hair analysis, and I was completely depleted of magnesium. And it says that the bladder muscle is the most sensitive muscle in your body. And if you don't have magnesium, it's hard like a rock. It has no flexibility. So when I started taking magnesium, I suddenly had a new life. I could hold my urine for a long time. And just a small thing, but minerals and vitamins and are very much more important than we think it is. And it should come from our food. It should come from our food, but it doesn't. So if you crave chocolate, magnesium. If you like almonds, magnesium. So what you're craving is also a clue. And very often I ask clients, do you crave sweet or salty? Salty, it's the minerals. Get a good sea salt. And if it's sweet, it's probably magnesium, because then it's chocolate. And so, I mean, after being studying for many years, I know a little bit of everything, but I know enough to help clients, and it changes their life. And yeah, but that's knowledge we should have from school, shouldn't we?
exactly.
About food and all that. So niacin and magnesium could help you a lot, and also praying, and trust that the help is coming. And also you have your spirit guides. They're just sitting there like puppies. Ask me, ask me, ask me, ask me. And we forget to
I ask them every day. I ask them every day.
Oh, that's good. That's really
well,
good.
Jane, I invite you to reach out to Emma by all means.
Yeah,
I can connect
absolutely.
you.
I'd love to help.
And we can get you on her Telegram channel. So,
yeah.
So Emma, what last things would you like to say? And then we'll ask you for how people can
you.
contact you. And I'll put the information in the description box below the video, of course. But anything else you'd like to share before you tell us how to reach you?
Well, there's so much. We'll
Of
have
course.
to do it again.
Sure.
Just never give up. There's always a solution.
We'll have to have a part 2.
We'll have a part 2.
Okay.
Yeah, you're a wealth of knowledge. Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I welcome that. No, just never give up. I mean, look it up, books, internet. Well, just discard the 10 first, and then start on the 20th reply you get on Google, and you'll find a clue. Just never give up. There is solutions for everything. And I think the world will get better and better and better and better. We will see results from all the work that's being done now. And I'm super positive about the future. Super positive.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I'm going to stop the recording, and we can stay and chat a tad if we like. Thank you everyone so much for being here. Emma, you're a wealth of knowledge. I knew we need to have you on. Take care, everyone.